see, now that music it doesn't feel right at all right now, does it? Green Bay Packers fall to the Philadelphia Eagles by a score 34-29 in week 1, coming off of the NFL's first ever game in Brazil. Okay, so there are a lot of things, right? Like the game just ended. If you're watching this on Saturday or whatever, know that we're like 5-7 minutes post game. Okay, so this is very much my quick immediate thoughts right thereafter. And here's the thing. I'm going to try really hard to keep this in a proper framing. Okay, this was week 1. It is not a season ender. It is not, like we'll see what happens with Love, because obviously that's first and foremost on the brain right now. But the reality is this was one game in the first week. And the team is going to look so different in week 17, 16, 10 than it did today. But also, it doesn't mean that there wasn't some stuff in this game that was just ungodly frustrating. And why was it so frustrating? Because we've seen so much of it before. So I'm going to give some of my thoughts here. I also want to hear from you. What are your thoughts? But again, I'm so hesitant to do this because I want to keep that proper framing in mind. It was week 1. So much is going to change. Still frustrating as hell. And that's totally fair. So before I get into my stuff, let's just see what you got here. Prime Suspect saying, why can't they call some love runs? Well, because the injury that happened at the end of the game, that would be Exhibit A, right? You don't want to lose your quarterback running, okay? And now I know that wasn't a run play or whatever, but as for why don't they have him do it more? That's why. 2, the other thing that I would say about Love is he is mobile. But remember back like early Aaron Rodgers' career, and I don't love to use this comp, but in this way it is true. Early in Aaron Rodgers' career, he had like deceptive speed, right? Like when he broke free, he could get some good gains. But he wasn't the kind of quarterback that you're going to sit back and like call a run for him. It was just his mobility was nice when it was needed. That's Jordan Love's mobility, really. He's not necessarily like, he's not Jalen Hurts. He's not a powerful enough runner. He's not a fast enough runner that you want to feature him as a runner. So let's just go with that. Let's see. Let's just get to these before I get to my stuff. Kevin Campbell saying most people seem to think it's not a major injury, and I hope that's true because Lord, my heart, hopefully just a cramp and sore ankle. Let's stick to U.S. borders, shall we? Going international, just saying for the Packers. We can say that very clearly at this point. The thing is, I wouldn't be shocked if that's the case with Love. He was obviously very visibly cramping up a lot during the game. The bananas and the massage guns and the whole deal, right? So we'll see. I don't want to get my hopes up or down. Either way, let's just wait until we actually know something, hear from LaFleur, etc. And then Kebble's saying LaFleur is apparently visibly shaken. See, now that doesn't bode as well. Kebble's now doesn't. Peter! I agree with you, John. It's not the end of anything tonight, but it's the beginning. It's not the beginning of anything either. Yeah, it's okay for this to be incredibly frustrating. We just need to keep that proper frame, right? Prime Suspect also saying long season. Okay, so here's the thing. Here's my deal. Was the field crap? Yes. And I've already seen like some of the conversation out there, and I even talked about it at the beginning of the watch party about like, it's the same field as what's in Lambeau. Well, yeah. And that was true. And it looked at the beginning of the game like the Packers actually had a better handle on it than the Eagles did. And then the field just kind of kept on falling apart. But like, think about it this way. So many houses here in Wisconsin have the same type of grass, but boy, it can look different places, right? The quality of it can be quite different. And yeah, the field sucked. All right, let's just go there. Okay. The reffing. It was not fantastic. I'm not one to really blame the refs ever, but yeah, it was not fantastic. There was some holding by the Eagles. It certainly looked like they should have been called. There was some stuff on the Packers side that like Jair, that hold in the 4th. Where was the hold on the hold? That would be my question, right? And then how about just the vast number of penalties? Now, Tolbert, the ref, is known for a high number of penalties. He's above league average in that way. Then you factor in the fact that it's week 1 and they always emphasize different things in week 1. How many freaking penalties can there be on field goals? Okay. Now, let's put those two things to the side because can't really control those two things, right? And the thing is, even if the next stuff didn't happen, there still would be just fine. But the reality is that stuff happened and the next stuff happened, and that leads to a week 1 loss. So let's take a look at the fact that Narveson, for the most part, was good. I'm not putting this game on him, but still a missed field goal in a close game doesn't help. Or how about in the first half? You have what should be one of the better offenses in the NFL in the Philadelphia Eagles with their shiny new toy Saquon Barkley, who eventually certainly got his in the game. But at the first 2 drives of the game, you get 2 turnovers. And both of them are on the good side of the field. Once the turnover happens, you got like 30 yards to go to pay dirt. And you get those 2 turnovers, and it results in 6 points. 6? Yeah, it's better than 0. It's also not nearly good enough. When you're going against a team that is the caliber of Philadelphia, another team to be considered a contender in your conference, getting those good breaks, getting those turnovers, and then converting it into only 6, kind of shot yourself in the foot right there. Okay, so let's go beyond that then, right? Let's talk about tackling, because tackling was one of the things that was supposed to be better. And I'm not willing to go so far as to say, like, I've already seen the conversations out there online when I did a quick check after the game about, like, well, this defense doesn't look any different than it did under Barry. Whatever. I'm not willing to say any of that until we can see all 22, until we have the data as to what the defense looked like, etc., etc. But you want to know one thing that actually remained consistent? The tackling. I know, slippery, slidey field. I get it. I don't care what scheme you call if you can't tackle. Very similarly, on the offensive side of the ball, I don't care what scheme you have if you can't catch or hang on to the ball at all. Or if your quarterback throws it away. I don't care what scheme you have on either side of the ball. When those basic fundamentals aren't there, doesn't matter what you're calling, you're not going to win. And defensively, the tackling was deficient, right? I think we all can say that. And it wasn't just like when they got their hands on a guy and then couldn't finish it off. Like, I will say, like, Javon Bullard, right? I have high expectations for Javon Bullard. This is one game in particular where I wasn't exactly bowled over by his abilities because I thought that he was one of the worst offenders in terms of over pursuit. There was a lot of over pursuing. A lot. And on a field where you can't get your footing at all, one of the things that you can't do is come in so blazing hot that the second the offensive player just goes, you miss because you over pursue. And that happened a ton in this game. How many little curls did we see to Philadelphia that then the Green Bay defender who was closest to the receiver just like went to the wrong side? He tried to guess which side he was going to go to rather than just hitting the guy. We saw it a lot. Too many times. And then Philadelphia turned what should have been 4-yard completions into 12-yard completions, ultimately being first downs. And then the offense, just on the whole. I talked in the pregame show. Look, I'm a nobody. I'm an idiot compared to LaFleur. I don't know anything about football compared to all those people. But look, the thing is, it was dead obvious that you shouldn't run the ball up the middle. Your offensive line in the middle is way worse than Philadelphia's defensive line up the middle. Like that matchup a lot better on the ends. Philadelphia's defensive line in its own right is way better at run defending in the middle with Dean and etc. behind than they are on the ends with Sweat and Huff, who are both not great run defenders. So what do we do in the first half a lot? Run it up the middle. Come on. I understand some of them are super like sacrificial lamb runs, like I call them, but come on. You know, and then let's go to another decision, that 2-point conversion. I understand going for 2 there. I do. You got the penalty, so now you get to move up to the 1. 1 yard to get a 2-point conversion? Good. But then you call the most predictable play, a simple halfback dive. Again, going against Philadelphia's defense, you don't want to just one up, you don't want your offensive line to just go heads up against whoever's in front of them, because at least for a couple spots on your line, the guy across is better than the guy you got. Don't run it. Don't do a straight up heads up run at him. Yet that's what we did, and predictably it stopped. Also, was a predictable play call. Well, when the game is hanging in the balance and it's only a 2-point game, suddenly that 2-point conversion, it looms pretty large. So I'm not willing to blame this game on the field, and I'm not willing to blame this game on the refs. They lost this game all on their own. The execution on the offense, this was not a great Jordan Love game. It just wasn't. He was off a lot. Receivers also did him no favors. Dontavian Wicks has to learn how to catch. I talked about that a ton in training camp. If you want to find one flaw in Dontavian Wicks, it's the fact that he got questionable hands sometimes. And there it was again. So I'm not willing to pin this on anybody else. This was on them. And hopefully they learn from it. So let's see what you guys got to say. Prime suspect saying South America humidity. I had to play a part, right? I did read that the weather, getting into it, it's just naturally more humid down there, right? I'm sure we'll hear more in the coming days about what exactly happened at the field, but you think that that's got to be a part of it, right? Peter, the game should have been played in France instead. French fields are way better than Brazilian ones. Yeah, maybe. Prime suspect, I think this loss will go a long way for the development of this team. That's the hope, right? I think part of the frustration is they lost in a way that we've seen before. Go back to the early part of last year, right? Think of the Atlanta game. Well, why did they lose the Atlanta game? Let's think back a year. Why did they lose that game? Poor offensive execution, with Love occasionally trying to do too much, throwing off of his back foot in the middle, etc., etc. Oh, yeah, and then they missed like 17 tackles. Well, why'd they lose this game? Partly the same thing. So hopefully they continue to learn. Chad, no update on the injury, but Love walked off the field with Jacobs. Okay, that's good. Prime, can't get upset about it. Pack will prevail. Right? I am frustrated. Of course, we all have the right to be frustrated. But as I said at the top, I'm trying really hard to just keep this in the proper little box of looking at this one game and saying, this is why they lost this one game. It is not a season ender. It is not any reason to panic at all. It's a good reason to be frustrated tonight. And then we move on. Captain Kebbles, I don't know if you want to know or not. Yeah, please give me all the updates. But Packers media are retweeting knee popped. Oh, I don't like that. I don't like that at all. Don't like that at all. Yeah, if there's any other updates out there, please let me know before I hop off here. Crochet Dial Hunter. Awesome name. NFL was greedy to have this game there. The NFL is attempting to expand to being a global audience. 30 years from now, 20 years from now, they want to have an entirely international division. And how do you build up to that? By having games other places. I would argue that what they need to do is make sure that these places have NFL standard fields, accommodations, etc. I'm also not going, now this was their first ever game in that country. Should the field have been immaculate? Yep, 1000%. But let's not act like, even if this game were in the States, like Philadelphia's field sometimes sucks, right? Look at what Washington has played on for years. That's been called a career ender for a long time. Crappy fields are just part of it, right? You would like to think that the very first game in this country would have been immaculate. It wasn't. It also isn't really the reason they lost. Kebbles. Two QBs that played fearlessly for 4 quarters and battled, barring major injury. Just got to say football is back. Hope you okay. So I can just say, well, the better team won today. Sucks, but it happens. And Philadelphia was better today. Okay, here we go. An update. Kevin Kebble's going to need an MRI, but the masses are saying the one popped, for whatever that might mean. I'm sure the NFL doc is going to have a video. Besides Jordan, I feel for the people of Brazil who only have gotten BS. I did see like some stuff on Twitter. Granted, like I don't have sound on during the game, right? But I did see some people on Twitter talking about how like that crowd was relatively, I think the word I saw passed around was like comatose compared to what people were expecting. They were expecting the soccer atmosphere of chanting all the time and everything, and it wasn't that. Yeah, that's kind of disappointing. I'll go with that. In terms of a knee popping, generally speaking, that ain't good news. Now, let's wait till we know more. Right? Prime suspect, United World. Yeah, that's what they're going for a world league, right? No doubt about it. I guess I'll just finish up by saying this, unless anybody else says anything else. This game, very frustrating, was one game. Move on. This game, in the grand scheme of things, also means nothing compared to what that MRI says about QB1. Because if QB1 is, I don't even want to say it, then this season takes a drastically different turn, right? So, and that's what matters so much more than one game right now. Kevin Kells. Oh, yeah, let's talk penalties too. Green Bay, what the? Too many. And I even take away the ref ones where like they were questionable. Too many penalties. Sloppy. Kevin Kebbels. To be fair, it was a sloppy AF game. Hard to stay hype. For the Brazilian fans. Yeah, I get that. It wasn't exactly the best product for the NFL either. I was like, guys, let's not spend so much time focusing on backup QB. We're going to manifest. Thanks for hosting Watch Party. You back, Kevin Kebbels, of course. And we'll be back next week, of course. Whether QB1 is there or not, we'll be there. Prime saying Jordan is good. God, I hope so, man. I hope so. So, all right, everybody. Here's the deal. They're 0-1. They're only 0-1. They're not 0-17. This was a frustrating loss, but it is a loss that can be learned from. And perhaps it's the most important thing for the Green Bay Packers in the coming days. Learn from it. Move on, because we're on to the Colts. That's that. All right, everybody. Go have a better night. Go enjoy the rest of your night. If you're checking this out on Saturday, have a fantastic weekend. I'll be back on Monday with shout-outs and get-outs. You can expect maybe more get-outs than shout-outs. Although I will tell you one guy who deserves a shout-out, Jaden Reed. Wide receiver 1 in my book, at least for this week. All right, everybody. Thanks so much. Go have a fantastic week. Let's see. Kebbles, I'll sneak it in here right before the buzzer. Please be right, Prime. Good night, everyone. We have a mini bye. Let's enjoy it the best we can. We do have a mini bye. Could help. All right, everybody. Go have a good one. Thanks as always. And as always, go Pack, go.